Morning, Janice.
Morning, Anthony.
Today we're going to do a Happy New Year type episode.
Yeah.
We'll cover the Solos Agers annual estate plan review. So, as our listeners should know it by now, Solos Agers estate plans are a little bit trickier than, I guess, I don't want to say normal because that implies abnormal, but right. Other estate plans. So for that reason, we normally suggest like you take a look at your estate plan. I just said normal again, every 4 or 5 years or so. But for Solos Agers, we do suggest this sort of annual light review just to make sure that everything's up to date. Again, just because things are a tad bit trickier for Solos Agers. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. We'll start with your executor. I mean, so this is important for Solos Agers because you kind of have non-traditional executors. It's not, you don't have a spouse or an adult child. And very often Solos Agers come to someone like me as a professional executor because they don't have a family member, a niece, a nephew, a cousin who they feel comfortable with or who they want to burden with being the executor. So anyway, you end up having either a friend or a professional or something like that. So number one, is your executor still alive?
Right.
And this is, you'll see this is a recurring theme. You got to make sure everyone's still alive or around to do the jobs that you've asked them to do. So is your executor still alive? And are they still, in our case, in New York? Or have they moved, halfway across the world or even just far enough to make it not really practicable for them to be the executor?
Retired, moved down to Florida or something? Yeah.
Exactly. And then lastly, on your executor, are you still confident that he will fulfill your duties to your liking? And that can mean a whole lot of different things. It can mean, if the executor you've chosen seems to have gotten real chummy with the people the family members who you were leaning towards disinheriting, maybe that's not the right person to make sure that
maybe not.
your disinheritance is sort of, stands his ground and holds firm.
Absolutely.
What's another example of where?
How about competency, right? You could have someone that's getting up there in age. Yeah, and maybe they're just not where they were last year when you had, or even a couple years ago when you nominated them as an executor. Maybe they're, their wits aren't about them as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent example. And that it doesn't even have to be that far. It can be, it doesn't have to be so far as a competency, but rather, let's say your assets are now more in something that's technologically advanced, such as cryptocurrency or a new type of financial instrument, options trading, who knows. And you just don't feel comfortable that your executor is keeping up to speed and will know what to do. It could be just being current with what you need your estate to be current with. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And if they don't know anything about Bitcoin or that it even exists, that's going to be a really tough position for that person to fill.
Yeah. Or art or whatever, whatever you're into.
Any of that stuff. Yeah. Sure. Yep. That crypto stuff, your person might not know anything about it.
So very good. So next you need to review, or just think about, again, light annual review. Who inherits? These are your heirs or whoever you've named in your will or trust. And with regard to individuals, family members, friends, etc. Again, are they still alive?
Right.
I know it's depressing, but this is what you have to do.
It is you'd rather look at this, spend you say light review, which I like, 5-10 minutes, quick. But that will save how much of a headache later on if 5 minutes.
And then with individuals, this is from like Marvel Comics, are they still worthy?
Yeah.
So with Solos Agers, you have family members who kind of stop doing as good a job keeping in touch. And for that reason, often Solos Agers are like, why am I giving this guy a quarter of my estate or half of my estate? And then even call on the holidays or my birthday or whatever. So
right.
Again, are they still worthy? Are they still, within your inner circle, whatever you want to call it?
Exactly. To still make you feel good to know you're leaving your worth to them.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, on individuals, are they still, however you had it set up, is it still appropriate for them to receive their inheritance outright, meaning like, cash right to them, or has something changed where they might need a trust or some other vehicle, through which the inheritance gets to them? Examples might be they started having gambling problems or drinking problems, or or they're just getting older in age and they need protection from outside strangers, let's call them.
Right, exactly.
Or it could be the flip. It could be somebody who was a kid and who doesn't need a trust anymore, so you can sort of scrap that, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. So also in terms of who inherits, charities, a lot of solo agers have very, very strong charitable intent, which is awesome. So the question is, same thing with the same Thor analogy. Is this charity still worthy? Mm-hmm. And that can mean a couple different things, because charities, like a lot of businesses and things, you know, 1 year or for a couple of years, they can be one of the most efficient, most worthwhile charities that are, you know, serving that cause. And then, you know, I don't know, change of management or change of directorial style, all of a sudden they're spending a lot on galas and, and things that you don't quite believe in, and you don't feel the money's quite getting to the cause itself. So is your chosen charity still the one that you believe in, right?
Right. Does it still maybe align with your values? Maybe they've changed and they're doing something different, or maybe they just don't exist, right? How many charities? Yeah. Right.
Oh, and lastly, I mean, have your passions or interests changed? Maybe when you did your will, you were really into your pets, and you have a lot of things to, I don't know, is it ASPCA or
yeah, they're different. Yeah.
PETA? I don't really know. But then, you know, now you're more into, Janice, what are you into? What's an example?
Okay, I would have said pets, so that's backwards for me.
Okay,
like
so I'm going to say PBA, Police Benevolence Association.
Yes,
something like
that is a great one. The PBAs and the homeless shelters and, you know, things that are, yeah, definitely.
So just check on your passions and interests and see if it still matches what you've done, because things change. You know, that's just how it is.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, and lastly, let's move on to the final. Again, this should be a real. This podcast is probably longer than your check. Your check should be. Yes. It should be a really quick light check.
You would have done all of this review in our introduction.
Totally.
So
lastly, your guardian. So you don't necessarily have a guardian in your estate plan, but my question is, are you satisfied with what will happen if you lose capacity? So if you have no plan, or if you don't have a trust or some sort of mechanism in place, are you happy with the idea of a court-appointed guardian, or as we like to call them, a court-appointed stranger, being in charge of your well-being and your finances? If somebody, the court, you might not think so, but the court may determine that you're not able to make your own decisions. Throwback to a recent episode we did about this Netflix movie called, I think it's called I Care So Much, which
I Care a Lot.
I Care a Lot. Excuse me.
Yep.
That. You know, it's a movie, so it's definitely dramatized, but it does do a pretty good job of showing how bad it can be, having just the system take over somebody who really doesn't need it, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're not satisfied with that, make sure you have a trust or something else set up so that you have a more satisfactory plan in place in case, again, not necessarily that you are incompetent, but rather you're sort of on the border or the court is like nudging you towards something. You want to make sure like nobody can pull the rug out from under you, yeah?
Exactly. We'll put some links in the comments because we've done a lot of podcasts about that, I think, to show the difference between the court-appointed stranger and having something in place. So, and again, I like your phrase, light review. Our podcast is longer than it'll take you to just sit down and think about it over a cup of coffee, and then you're going to know that your plan is strong. But and for those of you that haven't started a plan yet, check out Anthony's book, The Solos Agers Estate Plan. There should be a link down there for a free copy.
Cool. Yeah, that's it. This is a quick one, hopefully. Probably not even as quick as it should be, but a Happy New Year. Take a look at all that. And thank you, Janice. Thanks for everyone for listening. We'll talk soon next time.
Talk soon.
Bye now.